This is a space for collaborative leaders who are done choosing between people and performance. They're ready to build healthier cultures, lead with emotional resilience, and redefine what sustainable leadership looks like in the real world. Welcome to the Shine Leadership Advantage, where we explore how women leaders can leverage their personal growth to build happy, healthy, and high performing cultures without the burnout. I'm your host, Jennifer Cavender, executive coach and consultant for me. I'm now passionate about showing leaders how to leverage joy for better results and less stress. In partnering with Debbie Prediger, founder of the Be Extraordinary Women's Network and the creator of the Shine framework, I discovered that Shine principles and the importance of personal growth are so foundational to my own leadership coaching principles and the success of my clients. If you are new here and you haven't watched episode 0 yet, go back and be sure to watch that interview where I discuss with Debbie how and why this conversation is so important now and why she asked me to host it. Today, I'm here with Shelley Goldstein to talk about what she calls the pressure response when smart people go blank. Through the Shine lens, I think this topic is going to connect the most with the intuition principle. As an executive communication strategist and founder of the remarkable speaking framework and pressure response pathway, Shelley Goldstein has helped countless executives, entrepreneurs, and business owners communicate their clarity, authority, and gravitas while under pressure. Shelley's training and coaching has equipped professionals across 5 continents to strengthen trust, influence decisions, and drive measurable business results by developing the precision, confidence, and presence that today's business environment demands. Shelley spent nearly 20 years as a marketing executive and consultant, and she even spent a considerable amount of time in costume production and design on Broadway. So, welcome, Shelley. Thank you for that. I hear that intro all the time and just the contrast of all the different careers I've had. It's amazing that it's created a thread line in my life. It's one of my favorite things about you. Okay. So I had to throw it in there. So tell us, Shelley, a little bit about how you came to become the communication strategist and coach that you are today. Well, by accident. I mean, you mentioned I started in costumes and made my way through marketing. And it really, by accident, what I mean is I went on a journey to improve my own presentation skills because I felt like I didn't feel like I was communicating or connecting with my audiences. And, through costumes, I was able to use fabrics and clothing as an expression of identity. And through marketing, it was a messaging or an ad. But even just to present that brand idea or my vision or my words is really what started me down the path of developing public speaking skills, which over time I realized, wow, it's not just the skills, there's something more to presentation skills. So I've gone down this path and working with a lot of executives and realized that there's a gap. It's a gap between being confident in who you are and what you do, and being able to present and express that vision. And so the work followed as a result of that need. Yep. Yeah, I actually love your journey so much because it really shows the power of sort of staying open to what the world has for you. Right? And the way you and I know each other, we live not too far from each other. And so the way that you share your story and the power of each phase of that journey and how it influenced the next phase and how each part is sort of integral in how you showed up as who you are today. I just love that about your story. And well, thank you. And what's so interesting about that is
I realized, I shunned from my pathway. I shunned from the days of working for Ringling Brothers, and New York City Opera. It's like, what does that have to do with what I'm doing now? Will it diminish my credibility? And what I've learned is that's my journey. That's part of my legacy, if you will. That's who I am. And every single moment has led to today in one way or another. We all learn from experiences. I believe our skills are transferable. I was in the ski club in high school for a few minutes. Those skills, or being in band, all the way up to holding jobs at different levels and learning to identify that and accept that as part of this learning journey has not only become something that I now embrace, but like you're saying, others like yourself are just like, this is fascinating. I want to know more. So I encourage my clients to do that because their stories, all of our stories are fascinating.
Absolutely. Yes, very much. You and I met when we were ambassadors of an organization that was really promoting joy in our lives and in our work. What about what you do now brings you the most joy?
Ugh. Well, that was a great time. And I love that moment because it was also during the COVID years where we were all so deeply looking for connection. And there was this wonderful organization and this idea of sharing joy and sitting in a chair of joy. And what could be more inspiring and connecting than that? So, yes, we have a very special connection there, but it rings so true in so many things that I even do today because it's nice if you're working day and night to find joy in it. Now, not every minute is great, what I love to do. But when I'm working with a client, for example, the other day, a person runs a very important company that is probably, a Fortune 100 range type of organization. And they felt clearly they have confidence because they built this organization and they have the tools and the skills, but they felt kind of, off about connecting to the people they work with, really bringing people on with their vision in other ways, like raising more money and things like that. So when I worked with this client and helped them understand and connect the dots of their vision and bring their legacy to life and go into those moments, what were those failures? What were those successes? And reenact those, that person that had like a light bulb moment, and they started connecting the dots and realized you don't just have to walk in a room and talk facts and figures. When you share those pivotal moments in your life, it changes everything. It brings the conversation deeper. And that's why people want to champion your vision. Seeing that person go from, you know, hard as nails or feeling unsure to, wow, that's actually easier. That actually feels natural and refreshing. And what I had no idea it was I'm making things harder for myself. Seeing that transformation, that brings me joy because I know in helping leaders and executives, it trickles down, right? They're setting the pace, the idea for everybody within the organization. And that's what really creates a positive culture. That, spreading that brings me joy.
I love it. I love it. So, just your mic has developed a little bit of a static. So, I don't know if you've heard that before or if there's something that you might be able to fine tune. If not, we'll just keep going.
I will hit some buttons and see what happens.
Okay.
Hitting those buttons. Something's gonna happen.
Yeah, just keep hitting those buttons. So I love what you talk about when you talk about this sort of trickle down effect because it really does it is important for the leaders to set a tone because it does have such a large impact regardless of if you're leading a large organization or you're leading a small team. Is there something like within your journey that you think has sort of influenced that joy that gets created in you? Like, did you see something or experience something that now when you see this transformation, it just ignites for you?
Oh, I'll give you one example. I was at a company where, out of the senior leadership, I was one of 8 and I was the sole female. And I really felt like I had to fight for my seat at that table. And that was the narrative I told myself. No one else directly said that, but I told myself that narrative, and I would go into these meetings fighting for every minute, for every breath, trying to force my ideas within this room. And I would often get dismissed and passed. And it would really kind of infuriate me. But what I come to realize is that nobody was putting that language on me. I created that belief. And once I reframed that from a chair at the table to sitting in a throne, and you may have sat in some of my exercises, chair of joy, I have a throne, but reframing that idea said, no, I belong in that room. I deserve it. They're welcoming me there. And I don't have to try. I could just share. You don't have to agree with me, but I will get heard better if I'm part of the conversation, not forcing the conversation. And that really taught me to speak up. And I work with my clients on that. Like, we have this inner dialogue that is what's happening in the rest of the world. And once we change that, you go from I'm nervous to I'm excited. I'm excited is the narrative you're going to believe and the narrative you're going to act on.
Absolutely. I felt 100% remember the moment when I shift my mindset to I'm so scared to I'm so excited when it came to being on stage or just, being in any sort of situation where I needed to be the voice in the room.
Oh, yeah. I mean, your energy's there, it's in our bodies, and it's the parasympathetic system that, well, your brain could label it as nervous, and the parasympathetic system takes over where you're stressed, you're feeling nerves, you're feeling anxiety, your throat maybe tightens, your grip tightens. And it's that reframing it, from the sympathetic side to the parasympathetic, where it's rest and digest, calmness. I'm happy to be here. That same energy can motivate and move you in a much more positive direction. So it really is a different way of looking at that energy. You need it. You just can have it work for you in a more positive way.
Yes, and when you expand that conversation to the overall leadership and how you show up in every leadership decision, because it can be scary, not only to be on stage and give a speech or be in front of a board, but just to make some decisions that maybe you haven't made before, or you don't have all the information and you need to decide. There's a lot of fear that comes in. And so to reframe that in this picture of how can I be excited about what I'm about to do instead of being afraid of it? It really does shift your ability and the way people see you, right? Your ability to make those choices, as well as the way people are seeing your leadership. So I absolutely love that principle. Is one of my favorite things about reading your book. And so, as we get into this conversation a little deeper, keeping the big picture here for a moment, you've had a lot of experience with being in corporate environments, being a consultant for corporations, and now coaching executives and leaders and entrepreneurs. From that perspective, and this place of where you love to serve, which is communication, what do you see as the most important issue that leaders are facing now when it comes to building a healthy and thriving culture within an organization?
I'm going to go with the gap. The gap that exists is, but how do I communicate that vision effectively? and feeling that I have to have the right words, feeling that pressure. I'm the leader. I have to have these right words. There's no such thing as the right words, the wrong words. There's inappropriate, but the words themselves, you're really talking about ideas. If you're going to be a leader, you're leading people, you're inspiring others to become leaders and do the best at what they can do within their world, perhaps in your organization, and encouraging them to go beyond. The best way to do that is to connect with your experiences, your journey, your stories, and really what the big vision is. What is it you want everybody to know here? And look at that higher opportunity as opposed to sitting in the weeds of the right words. Am I smiling enough? And pull yourself back. It's not about me per se here, it's what I'm sharing with others. And that gap is not understanding that the people in the room are excited to hear from you. They want to learn from you. They want to understand how you got from A to Z, and they want to be heard. And once you address that gap, it's not about you showing up as a certain, speaking a certain way or playing a role. You get to be yourself.
Mm. I love this, absolutely love this because one of my core principles when working with organizations and teams is this ability to align people with the vision and the mission, as well as the values. And the communication of that is the most important piece because there's definitely different ways to communicate them, but also in being authentic in your own communication, right? Because when you're trying to communicate like someone else, it just doesn't land the same with
Oh,
people.
and people don't respond to facts and figures. The data is the data. There is a supporting concept or supporting proof. It's not the actual initiative itself. When I work with clients on a drill, just before this call, I had a client. We reviewed this one framework. We did it 3 times, 30 seconds a piece, which is under 2 minutes, right? That's 90 seconds. Here's what I want you to know. This is important for me to share because those 3 prompts and repeating that clarity statement, as I call it, 30 seconds, is to flush those ideas out in your head before you walk into that meeting. And what happened this morning with my client was she never thought of those ideas before. Like, yes, I'm here. I have a vision. I'm doing the work, but why is this important? What's a specific example that substantiates this big idea? And taking a few seconds to just flush it through and get clear on that answer is how you go into a room speaking authentically, speaking in your words, not any kind of industry jargon, and just in a clarity statement of 30 seconds, setting the tone for the room and the conversation. And then you take a deep dive into the details and the facts and the figures. But you got to captivate everybody from the start if you want them to follow you through the meeting.
Yes, absolutely. So after many years of coaching, you memorialized your framework in a book called Remarkable Speaking. Tell us a little bit about that framework and the impact that it has on leaders that you work with.
Well, I just shared a little bit of the framework, and it's that actually drill is known as the Shelly Grinder, which clients named years ago, and it kind of stuck because we start with 60 seconds, then we go to 30 seconds. So it's a pressure sort of builder, which actually helps people gain clarity. But the book and this whole framework came together for clients really saying, hey, you've got to write a book. This is amazing. And we need some semblance of this. I was like sending out emails with all this stuff written down and, oh, well, yeah, it could be in one place. And that happened about the time the passing of my father. And I was in sort of a mourning period. And the creativity of those ideas started really percolating. And I started realizing that a lot of what I was coaching people were things I've learned throughout my whole life. And a lot of them were influenced by my father. And how else better to honor him and share these ideas with my clients in a book that anybody can pick up, anybody could read and have the tool, because at the end of the day, I believe everybody deserves the right to express themselves and share their feelings, because when they do, that's when we can really collectively create change. No one should have to feel they have to hide behind some fear that isn't real sometimes.
Um, yeah, the fears are often just figments of our imagination, right?
They can be, like I said earlier, it's the narrative we tell ourselves that we believe. And fear can be real. I'm not saying it's not real, but I'm saying you can reframe it. For example, Lady Gaga, this is a world class performer. She performs in front of millions and millions of people. This woman, as well as other performers, get physically ill before they step out on stage. That fear is real before they have to perform or present, right? And they go through a drill to regulate their pressure. That's a consistent practice that before they go on that stage, they run through these drills so they could reset their thinking and their beliefs. And we know the performances are brilliant, so something's clicking. Well, how it relates to speaking is a lot of the framework and this pressure response pathway that you mentioned earlier is designed for that. It is a little 3, 4 minute drill you can do before you enter a room where you have to present or speak or pitch to your venture capitalists or present to the bank, whatever it is, or speak to your entire body of employees and develop that routine to shift that narrative.
It's so good. And I see so much overlap with the principles that you talk about and the Shine framework. And you and I talked about this a little bit. I really see a lot of the intuition principle from our Shine framework in what you talk about. Can you tell me a little bit about the role that intuition plays as a leader, as a speaker, as a communicator, as a good communicator?
I believe it's rooted in what you believe. And your intuition, they say a gut feeling. Well, a lot of that times it's your initial instinct, which is your truth, but it can get lost in overthinking, overanalyzing, and second guessing and self doubt. So, building up to that place of confidence, you can only talk about what you know and what you believe in. And speaking from that root of what I believe in, my vision and what I know, is all you can talk about honestly. You can't talk about the things you don't know. And you can be honest about that. But when you speak about what you know and you speak from that place of your feeling, your gut feeling, that's where you're the most confident because you have conviction about those ideas. And the decision making is easier based on that because you're making it, you're moving forward with an action and you're trusting that this is right for the moment. And not everybody in the room may agree with you. You may change that idea over time, it may evolve, but you've got to start somewhere.
In your book, you talk about this idea of don't put the audience into a data coma. And coming from the perspective of an accountant, we did so many presentations that would put people in a data coma. But I really felt towards the end of my career that leaning more into my intuition on how the audience was feeling and responding to me, that I didn't always have to rely 100% on the data, that I could connect with them in other ways and intuitively feel through a talk a little more than just, bullet points and percentages and numbers.
Well, that's absolutely right because the data is important. The data is your supporting. ideas. There's supporting materials and stories and examples that substantiate the big idea. Storytelling is so important for this, and those pieces are part of the story. But you're not going to grip an audience getting out there talking about data points. If you bring it around to a moment of, like, for example, you're shopping on Amazon, right? It knows slightly predictive what's going to happen based on an algorithm of you experiencing shopping. So if you're buying blue pants, it's going to send you more ideas for blue pants, maybe black pants, maybe dark brown pants. But what it can't do is it can't understand how you emotionally feel. Like, okay, I have black pants. Now I'm going to go, it's spring. I want beige pants. It can't understand that emotion. So algorithm to algorithm, it's only going to respond. Humans are not an Amazon shopping cart. You need to express how you feel because there is a valid reason for not wanting to buy black pants in the middle of a heat wave in June. You might want white pants. That emotional feeling and story is going to drive your decision at that moment and how you really believe that that's what should be based on a moment, a story, a feeling that you're going to share. Not coming out of the gate saying, well, 15% of the people don't wear white pants after Labor Day or something of that nature. It's not going to grasp the audience. Your stories will.
Yes. And how do we do that? How do we make that transition to being sort of maybe really data driven, or you also talk about being afraid of the quiet or the pause, to leaning more into this sensing the room and trusting that intuition.
Well, you say something, you tell a story, which humans have been doing for 30,000 years, started with cave drawings to books to songs to films. Storytelling works. So if we share an experience, like I was saying, the reason for the pants, I'm going to a wedding and I need white pants. You bring that story in. That's the lead in that's going to captivate people. And you mentioned the silence. It's taking that moment after you've said your story to let it sit, let people not only resonate, but replay how they maybe interpret wearing white pants or what's happening around their world at that moment. And when they connect with their own journey, now we're aligned. And you'll see the audience, you'll even feel the shift in the energy when people nod gently or smile. That's how you know very subliminally that everybody's on message with you. But if people are sitting there kind of like confused and you're just, I got to get 101 slides out in 10 minutes and that's my goal, you're going to lose your audience. Humans cannot, certainly not at that capacity, and do it well. So better to get one clear point out, take your time with it, build a conversation on more data points during the exploration of that comment later. Mm. Keep it simple, let the space, invite everybody in, and then you move forward based on that reaction.
Mm. Such good tips. I think, this question of how comes up so much, and people are always like, how? And when the answer is so simple, like tell a story and take a pause, it does relieve some stress. And it makes
It does, but here's the thing. I'm not just, the book isn't about telling people to tell a story because most of us go, I'm not a storyteller. I certainly didn't feel I was a storyteller. And who cares about my stories? I didn't think anybody did or would. The book is really a tool that actually walks you through, gives you the way to tell a story in your own words from your life.
Mm.
So I'm not all, and I wrote the book also in a way that I learned how I learned. And it wasn't from getting a lot of tips and telling people telling me I had to do this. Here are the steps. Now go do it chapter by chapter. And that's how you build a routine. That's how you have a transformation. I mean, think of your life. Every year of your life is an onion, right? It took years to build that shapely, beautiful onion of layers. You're not just going to get back to the core in 2 seconds and all this is going to be magic. I'm going to get out there and be a great storyteller. You got to peel those onion layers off slowly and build them back up slowly to really, really change a behavior and feel that comfort and make it feel familiar and not awkward.
Building new neural pathways.
You got it. You got it.
Yes. How can what I'm always curious about how leaders that might not recognize that their real issue might be a communication issue. Maybe they're experiencing certain things and they're frustrated and they're just not recognizing that maybe I need to look at the way I'm communicating or how I'm presenting to my teams or my people. What are some of the symptoms that they're experiencing that might indicate to them that they need to take a peek at their communication?
If you're feeling really nervous before you go into any type of conversation or meeting, that pressure is rising and it's so immense that in the first few minutes you absolutely go blank in your thought. If you walk out of meetings going, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what my key takeaway is. And the people around you come back later with lots of questions. That's a sign you weren't very clear. If your meetings go on for hours and people are still
Mm.
aren't clear, it's an indication you could probably cut an hour meeting down to 15 minutes and let everybody use that 45 minutes to regain their time, reclaim their time, and do what they're hired to do.
Ugh.
Those are the little things that tell you your communication is not well. Also, when you're exhausted after you've given a presentation, you're like, I'm so glad that's over. You spent hours. That feeling of release, but an uncomfortable release, like it's over versus, wow, that felt pretty good. That's another indication your communication isn't serving you.
Uh, what would you say if leaders wanted today to make one small shift to really improve their culture through an improved ability to communicate? What would you say would be like that first step or that one small shift that would really have an impact?
You're in the ivory tower because you did a lot of right things. You were successful in a lot of areas. Don't let that isolate you in an ivory tower. Realize that the people that are around you in your organization are helping to champion your vision. And so it's a disservice to them if you don't continue to serve them and not make the conversation about your own inhibitions, that the room is welcoming you and they want to hear you. And it's your gift to them to serve them and share this wealth of knowledge you have.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shelly, for spending time with me here. I just love what you share. I love what you do. I love how you help your clients. I love how you have imparted to me your knowledge just in being in your presence. And so I am just so grateful to have you as a colleague and a friend and now on this podcast. Is there anything else you would love to share with the audience or invite them into?
Well, you inspire just the same. So it is a pleasure to be within your company. So I thank you for that. And it says a lot to also the work that you do, that it extends over into friendship. And you've helped me understand that. And I want to share that with this audience is that so much of my journey, what I was goal oriented. And it took me a long time to set back and enjoy the journey, enjoy the process. And you are always a reminder to me of that this isn't just about getting the goals, getting the work done. It's really about enjoying that journey and the experience that others share and being present to make those decisions and to enrich our lives. So thank you for having me here today. And thank you for your constant reminders of that joy.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so grateful.
Mhm.
Well, if you guys can see the link on the screen, you can grab the Remarkable Speaking book if that resonates with you. You can also connect with Shelley Goldstein on LinkedIn. We will put all of her links in the show notes. But if this conversation resonated with you on a personal level and you really connect with what we talked about, especially maybe this idea of trusting your intuition, this is one of the key principles in the Shine framework. The Shine Circle membership is a beautiful space for women to connect on topics like this. So we would love to have you. If you're interested, if that resonates with you, you can comment shine in the comments and we will reach out to you. The bottom line is here that thriving cultures don't start with better perks and policies. They start with leaders who are willing to heal, grow, and lead from a place of wholeness and joy. That is the Shine Advantage, Leadership Advantage. Thank you for joining us.